So today is going to be another one of those videos where I'm going to have to cover two games in one. I've been doing that a lot in 2024, not something that I really thought I was going to do, and turns out that it seems easier this way, especially with a lot of indie games that happen to be on the short side, or maybe don't have like a huge story or something like that. It's really easy to do it this way, and honestly, something I'm thinking about doing more often. And so if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, today we're going to be talking about Turnip Boy Robs a Bank and The Cub. Both of these games are sequels, and both of them aren't super tied into their original game, so we'll get into that. We'll talk about all that stuff. First, I have to ask you to please hit that like and subscribe button, and also turn on the notifications. So first off, let's go over Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, because I think this one has a little bit more meat on the bone. There's a little bit more to talk about with this one, as it's a different game completely from its predecessor. If you played Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, then you know that game is very much a Zelda-like, and this game is not that way at all. But if you haven't played Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, they suggest that you play that first. My experience though says it really doesn't matter. There's a few references that would probably help, and maybe a few characters. You almost feel like you're kind of walking into a conversation, but at the same time, it's not that important, and it doesn't really lose anything if you haven't played the first one. Although, to completely contradict myself, I did end up playing the first one, and I played it before, didn't like it, played it this time because the game told me to, and I actually really enjoyed it. And it's a game that's usually on sale, and it's about, I would say, 3 to 4 hours, but it's a fun little game. It's definitely worth checking out. Now, with Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, this game is so much more different as it plays a little bit like a roguelite / looter dungeon crawler. It reminded me a lot of Moonlighter. I don't know if you played that. It's a great game. But essentially, your character is working with the mafia, and their big plan is to rob a bank. Now, this bank happens to be the biggest bank in the world, apparently, with multiple levels, multiple floors. Like, there's just so much to this bank, it would take you forever to completely explore it and to completely loot it. And unfortunately, you only have 2 minutes every time you go in there before the cops show up. So you just repeatedly rob the same bank. Actually, you even break through the same area every time, but you have 2 minutes. And at first, it starts simple enough where you're basically just shaking down people for their money, literally shaking them, or you're stealing things that aren't nailed down. Early on in your crime spree, you discover you're gonna need more tools to be able to get to other places like vaults or personal safes and things like this. Also, some better weapons would really help as well, as you're given the most basic of tools essentially to any armed robber. You're given a pistol and a sword of some sort. But as you're going back to this bank over and over and stealing things and slowly upgrading, you also discover that other enemies drop weapons. Well, if you take those weapons and bring them back to your warehouse, you can actually exchange them for better weapons. You see, there is a gentleman there at your warehouse who will take enough weapons to eventually unlock new weapons for you that aren't really the same as these other weapons, but they're really powerful, and it just opens up this new path, and this is how you unlock weapons. At that same time, the dark web becomes available to you. On the dark web is where you can buy a bunch of that will allow you to access different areas that you weren't able to, or some things just to make your life better. But that's not it, because as Turnip Boy and as you start, you're limited. You can only carry so much cash. You can only do so much damage. You're gonna need even more help, and that is where a roided out, half cyborg friend from the first game shows up, and he offers more permanent upgrades. Bullet damage, melee damage, the amount of money you can carry with you, the amount of health you have, things of this nature. Everything including like the chances of finding new weapons, and all of these cost money. Just like the weapons do, just like the dark web does, and you basically get this money from stealing it from the bank. Now, I did think it was kind of weird that the boss, the mafia boss, didn't have a problem with you essentially just keeping the money, but it doesn't matter, it's all in good fun. And you do need all of this though, because this game, unlike Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, this game is hard. And not completely, like, it's not just gonna completely blow you out of the water, but the bosses in this game are far more difficult. I didn't die once in Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. Not the case with this game. Died quite a few times, and you kind of appreciate that though, because again, the first one I think was just like way too easy. This one I think has a nice balance, but this is where it gives you goals. Hey, this is, time to get a new weapon, time to upgrade yourself, things like that, which gives you something to continue playing for, as well as just exploring more of this bank, finding side quests to do, which are always fun, and all the other weird NPCs that are still there. Like, the humor of this game is still there. A lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. Didn't expect to like it that much. Again, because when I purchased it, I didn't like the first game, and thankfully got a second chance at that, and I really liked that one, and really ended up liking this one. So for me, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, it's a solid 7 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's a must-buy, but it's really fun, and it gives you just enough of that, like, roguelike, looter experience to scratch that itch without being overwhelming. Alright, so for the second game is a game called The Cub. Now this is a game that is a sequel to a game called The Wasteland Golf Club or something like that. I don't know. I'll have the name in the description. But essentially, in that game, you revisit Earth after some sort of catastrophe happened, essentially starting the apocalypse. You've returned years later, actually play golf on this wasteland that was once Earth. It still is Earth, but definitely doesn't look the same. What I thought was interesting was that this game was kind of difficult. You're playing golf, but you only have so many strokes until par. If you don't reach par, you don't actually unlock different memories, and you don't really tell the story of the game. So you can keep playing if you want, but it kind of loses the point, if you will. Yeah, you can get better at the golf game, but it lacks something. And what I found interesting was The Cub is also a rather difficult game. I'm not going to say either one of these are incredibly hard, but like The Cub is more of a platformer. And if you make one mistake, you get hit by one enemy, you're dead. So both games I would say are very punishing, but at the same time, completely two different games, as where again, the golf game is a little bit of relaxation, yet difficult. It really does have the finer points of why golf can be frustrating to people. And yet this one, like I said, it's more of a platformer, almost like a speedrunner platformer. There is no combat, you just avoid different obstacles that can kill you and different enemies that can kill you. And one mistake and it's over. But luckily, the game respawns you really close to where you died, and it's also nice because there isn't like a long loading screen or something that you have to wait for. It's pretty quickly that you're able to get right back in the action. And so I do appreciate that, and it's the only thing that really kept me going in this game and actually allowing me to beat the game. If it had been too punishing, I probably wouldn't have beaten it. But it does tell a really cool story about a little boy who was born in this world. Well, or close to this world. Basically, his mother gave birth to him right before the catastrophe happened, and he ran away and essentially became raised by wolves and lived in the forest with the animals. And apparently there's other children as well, but you're learning about him and how they survived while the humans that remained during this apocalyptic time were killing each other. Things were going horrible. Even the fact that this little boy isn't bothered by Earth's air, as where now the people who were here, the ex-Earthlings, which are now Martians, they can't stay on the Earth's surface very long because it basically kills them over time. He's naturally adapted to it. And so you get to learn about his story. I'm not going to ruin much of it because, well, that's the whole point of this game. Although to be fair, I think this one has a little bit more depth than its predecessor because with the platforming, with the collectibles, there's more gameplay here. As with a golf game, there's not really like gameplay, so to speak. Yes, you are playing a game of golf, but there's only so much you can really attest to that being golf because it doesn't play like real golf. It's more like putt-putt golf. And I don't know, I think it's just kind of difficult to mess that kind of game up, but this one really does have a lot more to it, and I would say incredibly fast, incredibly smooth. The game performs really well. It's a ton of fun. Like, when you are hitting things right, it just feels so fun. It doesn't hurt the fact that the collectibles are relatively easy to find, and there are quite a few of them, and the fact that the cub, the little boy, he's kind of cute. He has many traits of a wolf, but he's also educated himself in the way of humanity, and so he's also just like a curious, rambunctious kid, and that's just, I don't know, kind of enduring. But this game has far more than just that, as the story it tells is very deep, very emotional, pretty intense at times, and it's just a really good game. I definitely recommend this one, and honestly, I give The Cub an 8 out of 10. It just barely edges out Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, namely because for me, this game just feels like art. This game is something that couldn't be recreated generated by AI or something. This game takes a lot of heart and soul to write, to create. The way that just the whole environment feels like it could be real. Not to mention a lot of the inside jokes about our real world. That definitely hits as well. It just, for me, feels more artistic. It feels more, I don't know, like there's some more depth to it. Put it that way. But anyway, either one of them are really great games and they're a lot of fun. Like I said, the Cub for me just by a little bit beats Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. But again, they're both really good games. I'm not going to say get one, don't get the other. Your choice completely. It kind of just depends on your mood. Like if you're looking for something really fun and just enjoyable, something to kick back with, then definitely go Turnip Boy. Or if you really want like this experience, then I'd definitely go with the Cub. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Which games would you prefer? Are you interested in both of them? Have you played any of them, honestly, including the prequels? Like, let me know what your thoughts are on all of that. Anything and everything down in the comment section is so much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.